back here on the Cover 3 podcast. Georgia walks into Jacksonville. First game that we don't have Brock Bowers from the jump. All eyes on what's going to happen with the Bulldogs in this spot against the Gators. Kind of gave them the work. My question is, do you feel like any questions were answered? Like, because here's what I see as a story, right? Jacksonville native Carson Beck even says after the game, like, this was really emotional for me. Throws for, what, 315
and 2.
315 and 2 touchdowns. You know, the Georgia offense scores touchdowns on its first 4 possessions. I mean, like, second half was basically a sim to end. Florida kind of got in its own way a lot. Shocking, says Bud Elliott. What stood out from the cocktail party, Bud?
So I basically turned it off when it got to be 32-7 with like 20 minutes left. UF had not hit 200 yards yet. Right. And basically Florida had a good opening drive on script, 75-ish yards, you want to call it. And for about the next like 45 minutes, they had 125 yards. Georgia just shut them down. Florida couldn't block Georgia for the most part. Georgia had no problems covering UF's receivers. And it's kind of like how I thought it was going to go. And that's why I bet Georgia. Like, Georgia is a different caliber of athlete than Florida is. And if you had the faith in Brock Bowers, or sorry, not Brock Bowers, if you had the faith in Carson Beck to throw it around without, and for the most part, like, Georgia blocked Florida with ease. Florida had 2 tackles for loss up until garbage time. Like, they were not a problem at all for UGA. UGA looks like one of the best 2 teams in the country, along with Michigan. And I think there's a pretty good gap. Like, it may turn out this would be a damn good year for the BCS. Right? Like,
every year would be a damn good year for the BCS, bud.
Yeah. But, like, it's starting to look like, okay, these 2 teams look a lot different. Because Florida has some athletes, and Georgia looked like a different caliber of athlete on the field. Did you see Kirby? What he said about the recruiting stuff?
Yeah, because Mullen picked Florida to win the game.
No. Tell me.
Yeah. He was talking about how, like, finding motivation and whatnot, and he's like, we're friends. And, like, somebody texted me that he picked Florida to win the game. He's like, well, he didn't like recruiting too much. Which is kind of cold. You got the buyout. So
listen,
whatever.
all right. So in the Kirby Smart Hall of Fame, which we might actually need to start putting together, because that's pretty good, but it still falls third minimum to already number 2, which was, they asked him about Michigan sign stealing and, whether he thought it impacted their semifinal game. He said it didn't think it impacted it too much. Of course, Georgia absolutely dominated it. And I'm not alleging sign stealing, but Nakobe Dean was calling out Michigan's plays before he's like, look, it's the orb sweep. It's the orb sweep. And when they tried to do it, he runs and makes the stop. And then number 1, this story actually comes from Bud Elliott, when right after Jeff Collins, then the head coach of Georgia Tech, is speaking to high school coaches. He goes through his whole gimmicky spiel, and Kirby Smart walks up and allegedly, reportedly, as I've heard, said, "That was cute."
Oh, with the Waffle House cup? Yeah.
Oh, that was cute. I don't need to write my coaches' names on the side because I've got them all memorized. And if you got players, we want to see them.
I love Kirby's quotes, but I still think Dave Doran wins today's post-game quote contest by a mile.
We got time for that. Right?
My takeaways from this game, I mean, first, who needs Brock Bowers when you got big bad lad? 6 catches, 135 yards, touchdown, just running through that Florida defense. And then I think that if you were harboring, like Bud, you were getting at, if you were harboring any hope that this Georgia team maybe wasn't, Death Star Crusher mode, I think today kind of confirmed, they're just going to be that team again this year. And there's nobody in the SEC that's going to beat them. They're going to go undefeated. They're going to be in the playoff, and you are going to have to get through them if you want to win a national title this season. And I do think you're right. Like, Georgia and Michigan have just kind of separated themselves from everybody else. And no matter what, like, Michigan didn't play today, but as I said, we were talking Ohio State, Wisconsin. I still didn't see anything from the Buckeyes that made me think they're going to beat Michigan. We'll talk about Penn State later, but I still didn't see anything from Penn State that makes me think they're going to beat Michigan. I haven't seen anything from the SEC teams that makes me think they're going to beat Georgia. It just, in a year in which we are seeing a lot of the, quote unquote parity everybody was talking about, all these teams have a chance to win the national title. You see these guys struggling sometimes, having bad weeks or bad games, playing down to opponents. You just haven't seen that from Georgia and Michigan. And I know Georgia didn't kill everybody to start the year, but it's not like they were ever really in trouble. So, yeah, it feels like we're very much on a path to these two meeting in the playoff.
And I think we do see it, the drop-off in other places. We see it in Tuscaloosa. We see it in Columbus, where they don't have high-level quarterback play this year. But Georgia's got it. Like, guys, Carson Beck's going to get drafted way higher than people think. And McCarthy in Michigan, like, for as much as we kind of were skeptical of him last year because the split between
you.
I was very skeptical, yeah. And
I haven't,
ultimately, like, he kind of blew it for him in the playoff game, which sucked. Mm-hmm. But, like last year he was number 1 in rating off play action, 55th without play action. This year he's number 1 without play action. So, like, Georgia and Michigan, they got quarterbacks. Like, those two are going to be the best 2 quarterbacks in the playoff. I'm fairly certain, right? Am I missing somebody here?
I would say Penix or Nix, if they make it there, would like to. If we're only talking quarterbacks, like not like full team, all things considered, but who you got, I think Penix and Nix would like a word in the McCarthy-Beck conversation. And I think both teams have a shot at least.
They do.
To be able to make it.
Far more confident in Oregon than I am Washington right now.
Yeah, they're kind of on fumes, it looks like, but maybe they can get it back together. At least the offense looked okay tonight. Like they got their center back. They weren't giving up immediate A-gap pressure on Penix. I don't know. Chip's like, what are you guys doing? You're off script.
Oh no, I mean, listen, there's nothing that's off script. I've only got one more. I did not want to speed along to Oregon yet because as I mentioned earlier, I was Oregon-Utah primary. I did not get to see whatever everyone was complaining about regarding Billy Napier, Florida play calling, the way that they handled the beginning of the game. I just haven't watched it yet to this point. Like, are these Florida fan complaints, or are these like legitimately, what are you doing in this game? Why are you getting so cute? Is there anything to it from from our perspective?
They did get cute. And you know what? They needed to. They were giving up 8.3 yards a play. Billy Napier did something that a lot of coaches don't have the balls to do, right? And that's play to try to win the football game.
Not play to cover?
Right, exactly. Like, a lot of times, if you're trying to win, you're actually kind of going to take the outcomes and go like that, right? More likely to win, but also if it doesn't work out, more likely to get blown out. And he went for it. I thought it was kind of a cool play, actually, right? It's a play kind of off like the tush push thing. Mertz gets in there like he's going to sneak it. They snap the ball between Mertz's legs to the back Etienne, who actually is a left-handed thrower. I didn't know that. It's kind of cool. And then they're going to try to throw a pass downfield. Georgia snuffed it out. It's a neat play. It didn't work. I think Florida fans realize, like, you're not going to like run the ball, play defense, punt. What are you going to lose? 31-7? Like you're still going to lose. You're still going to lose by more than 3 touchdowns. I thought it was crazy. People are giving him crap over this. Like, at least he tried to win it.
Yeah, like to compare this to the game we haven't talked about yet, but like Indiana had a chance to beat Penn State today. Penn State gave them a golden opportunity with a turnover deep inside their own territory late in a 3-point game. And Tom Allen and the Hoosiers played for a field goal because the field goal would tie the game. And they didn't want to risk turning the ball over and blowing it. So on a 3rd and 8, they handed off a halfback draw for a 2-yard gain, kicked the field goal to tie it. And then Penn State threw for a 57-yard touchdown 2 plays later, won the game. Is that what you would have rather Billy Napier had done, Florida fans, is just play to just keep it close or play to win it? Like, I will accept arguments that maybe the play calls and the designs were a little too cute, but take the chances because you sure as hell weren't just going to beat Georgia by lining up and playing it straight.
So I think the argument there is like, hey, you would have had the sneak, no problem, which I get. But clearly, Florida is of the opinion that it needs to try to manufacture explosive plays, which is what they were trying to do. And you know what? That's a correct opinion. Florida didn't have any explosive plays after that opening series until garbage time. Georgia allowed basically nothing for about a 35-minute period. So, again, they were correct in that.